really important because it gets you to think of, okay, how do I not just call this being that I see in front of me the right terminology, but it is humanizing this being in front of you and saying, oh yeah, they're human. They have a tough life, just like I have a tough life. They have successes and struggles, and people love them, and they want to have sex and feel pleasure and be loved and cry sometimes and feel hurt and all this stuff. So I think realizing that all of those things exist in all of the living humans that you encounter, I think that's sexy.
Welcome to the Give and Consent podcast. The goal of this show is to introduce you to the people and ideas behind sex positivity and ultimately create consent culture. Today I'm joined by a fellow podcaster, and his show, I'm Kind of a Big Deal, showcases the unique lives of people affected by dwarfism, from the world's shortest stripper to the realistic day-to-day life for little people. And today we're going to dive into how dwarfism plays out in sex, relationships, and self-esteem. Please welcome Christophe Zajac-Denek.
Hey, Jamie. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I think a great place for us to start is just about what's going on with you. Tell me about dwarfism and about how it plays out in your life.
Yeah, dwarfism is a regular daily thing for me. It's there are a lot of probably unique experiences that people don't really understand or see. I mean, I have a very visible difference. I have skeletal dysplasia. The type of dwarfism that I have is called cartilage hair hypoplasia, and I'm 4'4" tall. I'm relatively proportionate in my size or my limbs relative to my torso. So that's one thing that might make me not look as different. I'm kind of just more compact, possibly, whereas other individuals, their torso might be larger and in relation to their limbs, or other individuals can have the opposite, where their torso is smaller in relation to their limbs. I always say that dwarfism is a mixed bag because you can have 10 people lined up that have achondroplasia, which is the most common form of dwarfism, and they can all have extremely different experiences among the 10 of those individuals. So it really just depends. Some people don't have to have surgery, and some people have surgeries into the double digits. And I've had 3 major surgeries in my life. I've had 2 reconstructive leg surgeries, and I have a spinal fusion. So I have 2 rods attached to my spine with hooks from T1 to L4. And I have impeccable posture without even trying. I also can't, bend over and pick something up like another person who just bends their back. So, trade-offs, am I right? But yeah, along with the physical aspects of dwarfism, there are some really huge mental and social aspects that contribute to our experience as well. When you are regularly seen as different or odd or something to comment about or something to photograph or something to avoid in society, it can play with your mind a little bit, because along with those real lived experiences of people, placing that judgment or having that reaction to you, you can kind of file that away and have some mental stress that you need to sort out, that can manifest in not feeling worthy, not feeling seen, having to develop a really thick skin that it can be difficult to penetrate sometimes, and when it comes to making intimate or relationship connections. That's what I've experienced anyway. There's I've experienced a lot of self-doubt, a lot of denial of who I am as a little person, and not feeling worthy, not really feeling seen. And, that leads to a bunch of other things that we all know, and we all also don't know until we're in them, I think.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm
Yeah.
curious because like you mentioned like having to go through three different surgeries, and I think those happen like when you're like a teenager, right?
Yeah. One was when I was 6, and then the other two, 16 and 17.
Yeah, and you think about like all the development that happens there, and for a lot of people, we pick up issues around like our own bodies, and on top of it, you're going through surgeries. Like, what how has that journey been for you about like owning who you are and learning to love your body?
It's kind of funny, I think, because the surgeries are almost the easy part because I had nothing to do with them at all. My health is in someone's hands. But I will say that one thing that I say pretty much every episode on my show is little people have to grow up before everyone else. As ironic as that sounds, like we have to be more aware. We're faced with more serious situations where you have to handle people questioning why we are the way we are all the time. And so, I mean, the surgeries were difficult, don't get me wrong, but I was very lucky to find a specialist. My parents found a specialist when I was 2 years old, and we started to go see this doctor in Baltimore, Maryland. His name is Dr. Kopitz. And, he changed my life for the better. I would not be able to be as physical and do the activities that I enjoy doing without pain if it weren't for him intervening and suggesting, treatment the way that he did. So, when you're 6 and you've seen a doctor for 4 years religiously, you have nothing else to do but accept what your fate is and what the adults around you are suggesting for your future. And I liken those appointments with the doctor to business meetings at a young age for my health. But I really didn't have a say in it. There were doctors standing around scrutinizing my x-rays on a light board and discussing treatment options and stuff. And then a couple years later, I'm going into the operating room and they created non-unions out of my fibulas, which are the non-weight bearing bones in the lower leg. And when the fibulas grow faster, that's a lot of times what results in bowed legs in little people. So if you see someone with bowed legs, that usually indicates that the fibulas grew faster. And so to stop that, they created non-unions. So my fibulas have not been connected since I was 6. And then they performed some other operations, osteotomies and whatnot on other curved bones in my legs. And then I'm in a cast from my chest to below my feet for the summer. And when I was 6, my parents took me everywhere. I went to the zoo, I went to school, I went to Detroit Tigers baseball games, went to restaurants, and I got around. I also weighed a lot less than I do now, so it was much easier to move me around. But yeah, I think the surgeries they're not easy, but they're going to be over, and there is a point where you get to go through physical therapy and see your body again and work on your body again. And I think that's where I kind of fell in love with my body, because I could push my body to learn how to walk again. I could stretch my muscles. I had to walk the day after my spinal fusion was performed, even though I was very out of it and very high on pain medication, I still had to stand up and perform that, maneuver. But that's where I think I did fall in love with what I have as a body, and I was always very active and my body took me everywhere, and it was always good to me.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
So when you are out and you're looking to like date now and you're feeling good about yourself, how how is that for you? Like in what ways might it be different? Like what have you noticed when you're going out in the dating world?
Oh man, in the dating world, it is tough. I'm still not super confident with just walking up to a woman that I find attractive and just talking to them. There's still a lot of judgment in my head, prejudgment, on what they will see. I do pretty well when there is a moment or some time where there's an even playing field where a woman can have exposure to me or have an experience with me and realize that I am not this messed up thing, that it doesn't have thoughts or can't have a conversation or isn't artistic and creative or whatever it is that I am. Upon appearances, I don't just have women that come up to me, or approaching women is difficult. It's more a situation. I like a situation that is more mutual shared experience to get to know somebody and to maybe move to the next level or start dating. I've been on dating apps and I really don't like them. I'm also 41. And so once you hit a certain age, it doesn't matter, no matter how good you look or how whatever. I feel like there's a firewall there that is impenetrable. You can't move beyond that. So I appreciate the in-person, meet someone at a party, meet someone at a bar and have, a couple hours of interaction instead of just kind of going up and hitting on someone and trying to start something that way.
Yeah. And of course, that's been really difficult to do the last year because we've been in COVID times.
Wait, why has it been difficult? I don't understand. What do you mean?
Yeah. It's the strangest thing.
I've been going out to all the bars for the last year. It's been awesome. Like, I don't know where everybody's been. It's been a great time for me though.
So, when you are going out, like, are there things that happen that kind of like drive you crazy? Like, do you ever get like fetishized in a way that you're just like, oh, this again?
So the fetishization thing is more tolerable for me, because it instantly tells me that somebody isn't in it for Christophe as a person. It's Christophe as an experience or a box to check off or something like that. And that's, fine. That's where you are. I've been in that situation too. And I've indulged, and that's fine if you're both in the same situation and you're like, okay, cool. I want to be with a 5'11" woman. Let's try this out. Let's see where this goes. The hardest thing for me, and it's hard because it's happened so many times in my life. The hardest thing is breaching that friend barrier, because I've gotten to know a number of women who I can sense anyway that they would consider me as being, someone to be good in a relationship with. But I think when they think about the physical interaction, I'm shorter. My face is maybe at the height of your boobs. I can't walk up and kiss you in a bar. You have to bend down to get to my face. If we lay in bed, I'm the smaller one. I can still spoon you, but I can't, I'm not bigger than you are, than the female. So that's the thing that irks me the most, that drives me the craziest, is that I've gotten to know a handful of women in my life, and that's the barrier, the size. And I've been told this to my face, where they say, actually, I really like you, but I'm the one, I want to feel as though I'm the one that is small. And I don't want to lead you on because I like you, but I would love to be friends with you. And there's a moment where I just want to say, I don't need any more friends. Honestly, I would just rather break this off and us never talk again, because it's, at this point, it's just really frustrating and I'm just kind of tired of it. And these are with people that I held in a really high regard, and I was physically attracted to as well. And man, that breaks my heart every time. And I don't know how to necessarily get over it, except just not really be friends. And as there are some folks that I'm friends with that, that was the situation initially. And they are some really dear friends of mine at this point. Like it worked out or it moved on, or maybe they were earlier on in the list, and we found value in each other in a friendship. But at this point, when it's like two adults that complain about the same things, like the same things, smile at the same things, laugh at the same things, but the barrier is my arms and legs are too short. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah, thank you. It makes me think of that question we ask a lot of in sex positivity is like, who has access to pleasure? Like, because we put value on people about who is valuable and what is sexy and what are things supposed to be. And I think we
Yeah.
miss a lot of great opportunities because of that.
And also it denies my ability to have a choice, honestly, because, I have a brain just like you have a brain, no matter what body it is on, and so I see the same things, and I can like and not like certain things, but the filter that goes through that filters out the options for me is so much more fine. It just does away with so many opportunities or possibilities before I even have a chance to really, I don't know, put my preference out there.
I want to ask you about ambassadorship, because something that happens when you're not the typical thing people are expecting, like for whatever reason that is, you can end up like being the ambassador for everybody who represents your group. Like I might get asked about like, why are all women like this? And I'm like, I can't answer for every woman because I'm not every woman. I can just
Yeah.
answer for this woman. Like, is that something that you run into when going out, especially like in, like flirting and socializing with new people?
Yeah, I feel like I really haven't been flirting and meeting new people in so long. It's hard to remember that. It's interesting. I mean, this doesn't totally speak to it, but I guess I also want to say, like, I've had girlfriends who've never asked me about dwarfism at all, So it really depends on the person, because I do feel like I am always on, I'm always advocating for little people. I always have to explain things, shut down a situation where somebody's getting their camera out, or, approach somebody to confirm that I'm okay or whatever, it's, and so the ambassadorship is always, that's always on, that light's always green. And because you just can't, what do you get from turning it off and having a negative situation? It perpetuates the angry dwarf stigma that's out there. Oh, they're all angry. Or I mean, that isn't something that I say all the time. Like I'm not encountered with people thinking that I'm angry because I'm a little person. But yeah, I think it's exhausting for some people. I'm doing it a lot now because I am interviewing people on my show, and I've been advocating more for little people now than I've ever done in my entire life, even though I have a dwarfism. And it's a lot of work. There are a lot of avenues. There's a lot of nuance, and you're right. It's so individual. Some little people don't care if you use the word midget, or they say they don't care. Other people will throw up their arms and never want to talk to you again. It's such an individual experience. But I mean, that's everything. That's dating, that's sex, that's all of these aspects at the same time. So I guess it's interesting to me that what is so confusing is the short limbs, and that's what tosses everyone off, because everybody recognizes nuance, and everybody realizes that people are different and there is disability in the world. And that mental health is such an incredible topic right now, and it's impacting our world, and being recognized as doing so more than ever, I think. And I do think it's really important for us to advocate for ourselves, because we are fighting against the media, and we are fighting against the people who, laugh at the term midget and don't want to know a little person, or don't care to look at us as a real being that has feelings and loved ones and families and significant others and hardships and successes and supremely funny moments at the same time, so it's ever present. It's always happening.
Yeah. So you have a podcast. You just mentioned it, and I want to talk about that because I one of the episodes I listened to, you talked to the world's shortest stripper, and I thought that was so fascinating because it shows this like diversity and range. Like you're doing this to advocate for little people, to tell those stories. Like, what brought you to that point to actually go, I'm going to make a show about it, and you've been consistent about it?
Uh, living for 40 years, weird experiences. I initially started the show because I was encouraged to talk about my life and the jobs that I've done, because my life has been really weird and crazy. But when I shared my experience with some of my other friends who have dwarfism, they said, why do I identify with this so much? Why is this hitting home for me? And I almost instantly wanted to tell their stories as well and give them a platform, because there is nothing out there that showcases little people in a real light. I mean, I know that there are little people athletes who get interviewed, and, the question that they ask is, oh, so you're 4'5". That's got to be crazy. And then the rest of the interview is just about the sport, which cool. Do that podcast, get out there and show people that a 4'5" person, or whatever size you are, it doesn't matter, is doing whatever sport you're doing. But I really wanted to delve into the shame, the hesitation, the struggles that I've had, the successes that I've had. I wanted to show people that we're funny. My show is not a clinical deep dive into dwarfism, although I think I'd like to do that as a series, because I think it's really interesting to know about the specific types of dwarfism, as there are many types of dwarfism. So yeah, I've been having a blast talking to all these individual people, and Sassy Cassie is amazing. She's the tiniest stripper. She and I have the same dwarfism, which I think is incredible, because she's 2'10" and I'm 1.5 feet taller than she is. I'm 4'4". And within that container, I'm doing air quotes, of dwarfism, there are there's this range of differences, that are visible and not visible. And it's like, to give you an idea, she does handstand push-ups and she doesn't work out. Like, it's amazing, and I don't know. I feel like we are always advocating for ourselves, or we're talking about the cool things that we do, or we're highlighted for the accomplishments. But I really wanted to show the human side of what it takes to do all of that. To me, that story is really interesting, and it's amazing to hear people talk about it, and not just talk about, we know that when you get made fun of, it hurts, and why that happens. But I think the process and the life that they just share with me on my podcast it's really valuable to me, and I'm loving every moment of it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value behind it, because like I knew that there was probably more than one form of dwarfism, but I hadn't really thought about it because it hasn't been my experience. So it's great to have a place to have like education and resources and have your eyes open to it. So, what was puberty like for you? Like, I assume that growing up for you was a little bit different than it might be for somebody else.
Puberty and growing up was, I mean, that was a mess for me. So like, I'm fine to talk about. This is just, yeah, growing up and getting older with dwarfism in your teenage years that was really complex and really difficult, because I had people who were close to me who would joke around about how I was handsome, or I probably had a bunch of dates or a bunch of girls that wanted to go out with me. And that always messed with me. That always messed with my head. And I've learned now about toxic positivity, and that really is a version of that affected me in a really frustrating way. I didn't want to hear about how people thought I was so handsome and was going on dates, or probably got all the women, or had a bunch of sex, because it never happened. That was never my experience. And I was kind of an asshole to girls in junior high, because I really didn't know what they were after. I didn't trust them. Probably wasn't trusting of myself either. And so I stifled myself in a lot of relationship scenarios. I shut down any girls, because this is teenage years, that wanted to connect with me or date me or possibly ever kiss me. I just never saw myself as being, I don't know what I saw myself as. It wasn't, I wanted to date like the girls that I thought were the prettiest, or the most popular, or the most stylish, or something like that. And I just put these, I don't know, these bumpers on my path that shut me out from so many other options. And I really didn't, want to go for girls that weren't skinny and pretty and cute or funny, and had the body that everybody thought was hot or adorable or whatever. I don't know. And that really stifles you, that really shuts down so many of your options for looking at somebody's personality, especially when it's coming from someone with a visible physical disability. It's not a healthy way to approach relationships. And that was a really tough thing for me to get over. I mean, it took me a really long time, and I'm talking like 10 years to get beyond, rejecting just about everything that was put in front of me, because it didn't check all 100 boxes that I had, or whatever like my criteria was for something, for a relationship that was worth my time. Ugh, it's so bad, and it even happened in college. There was I put this on myself, and I put this on other people, but there was also this self-confidence that was lacking in my own experience and my own being, where there's this story in college where it's probably my junior year, and I was living in a house at Michigan State University, and we threw a party at the house, and there was this woman that came, another student at Michigan State, and we were kind of drunk at the party, and it's a packed party, and we're hanging out and stuff. And she and I are talking. She's probably 5'10" or 5'11". She was tall, and she squats down in the middle of this party to talk to me, and we're eye to eye, and we started making out. I didn't initiate it. I didn't know how to do that at all, but she started making out with me, and I'm sure it was a terrible kiss, like from me, but this happened. And I think that's the first time I made out with someone, in college. And the next day, the next 2 days, I was just thinking, oh, she just you know, that was a mistake. She didn't want to actually kiss me. Like, she was drunk. That was a mistake on her part. And, you know, why would she want to kiss me? You know, she was just really drunk. 2 weeks later, my friends get invited to her house, and all of her girlfriends have a party. I'm over there. I end up in her bedroom. We're making out in her bedroom. And then I spend the night on the couch. We made out on the couch. And then 2 days later, I'm like, yeah, she made another mistake. Like, she was drunker at this party. She was like even more in the mistake making zone. But that's what I thought, you know, that was what was going through my head. I'm not worthy of this. So even though I wanted the super hot, tall, cute, skinny woman, when she put her face in mine, I still shot it down. So to me, that just tells me that the more that I'm talking to little people now and realizing the truths about my experience, all this stuff piles up, right? And, you know, the sooner you start chipping away at it, the sooner you can get to a better place for yourself, get to more acceptance, get to, I don't know, whatever you need to get to, or on the path to what you never get anywhere. I don't think you just get, you know, you find out ways to manage and live in yourself and with yourself better. I don't know. That's what I think. I think it's a process, the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
walking through that process, so you're in high school and things are not working out, and you're kind of like angry at girls. You get to college and you have this experience. Like, what have your dating preferences been like since then? Like, and I'm also curious, have you ever dated somebody with dwarfism?
Yeah, my preference has kind of been more open-minded. You know, I don't necessarily have, I don't think I have a type. I'm sure I have a type, but I'm just kind of denying it. But, you know, I've dated women of all different types and shapes and ages and heights. I dated one little person. She was about 3 inches taller than I was, and it didn't work out. We have like some pretty strong personality differences, but that was great. I mean, a 3-inch height difference for someone who's 4'4" is pretty rad, because you can kiss. I understand. Okay, I get it. Like, being able to just walk up to somebody and kiss them in their face is nice. But it also doesn't, like, I don't know. That shouldn't be the only reason to date someone or not to date someone. But yeah, my first girlfriend, I was definitely 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was touring in the rock band at the time, so I was gone a lot, but I also thought it would be really cool to have, you know, a girlfriend, like to have someone who thought playing in a rock band was cool and also wanted this. Like, I'm realizing that, like, how one-sided is this, you know? But it was so late in my life that I kind of needed to have the experience, you know. At an age that finally comes a time where you have to have that experience, and just whatever can work out for you, you make it work. And as like, if you want to call that manipulative or whatever, but I mean, I was 26 years old and I hadn't had a girlfriend yet. And in a lot of situations, that's, you know, that's not normal. And that's not what I wanted for myself. Also, I think it's kind of interesting that I was touring in a rock band for 3 or 4 years and I wasn't banging girls in every city that I was going to. It was a very PG situation that I was in. And so, I mean, the expectations are just so wrong for all of it. It's not a real relationship. And the after that relationship, I did have a great relationship that got derailed because I was moving away from Detroit and I moved to Los Angeles. My life has kind of been dictated by my work and my ability to travel and move around. And so not only does that mess with your physical presence, it also messes with your mental presence as well. And so to be constantly looking over your shoulder or looking ahead to whatever's next, it puts the relationship second. And that doesn't work, that really doesn't work. But I still find myself in that position today. Like I'm not in, I want to find someone who loves me for me and wants to be with me, but I'm also not in a house or an apartment where I'm settled. I'm not in a career where I'm settled. I'm not making money and able to just relax on the weekends. Like my life is still up in the air and it's still kind of in a bit of tumult, like there's stuff that I still need to figure out. And so, but also I'm getting older at the same time. And do you compromise or do you stick to your guns and do what you love? It's a really difficult decision. Especially when, relatively you have fewer options to choose from. So.
Yeah, I'm hearing that thread throughout the story as you're talking about like relationships that you kind of like were just like, that was a mistake, like pushing people away, and how that's been related to like how you feel about yourself. And that's just I think that happens to a lot of people for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a generally regular experience in so many different ways for people. It's very personal, I think.
Yeah, and it takes time to communicate through it and find your way to actually connecting with people and acknowledging the elephant in the room while at the same time respecting each other.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that isn't necessarily what you lead with, but maybe it shouldn't be too far down the road until you talk about something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. If people want to find you and your podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. My podcast is called I'm Kind of a Big Deal, and you can find me just about everywhere podcasts are found. And on Instagram, you can find me at Big Deal Pod. And yeah, check it out. All of my guests are pretty incredible.
Oh yeah, I've enjoyed checking it out and finding out who you are. If you had one piece of advice for people about how to like, I guess what I want to ask you about is like how to be like better human beings, to be sexier and like be inviting of those who maybe don't appear in the way that they are expecting a romantic partner to be like. What advice might you have for others?
So I will say dwarf bodies are sexy. And I think it's like, I say this on almost every show that I'm on, but I'm going to twist it just a little bit for your show, because I think introducing yourself to someone is sexy. Having the confidence to walk up to somebody who is new, who might look different, who is a different person, and could even have a visual disability like dwarfism, that's sexy, and personality to me is very sexy. And so I think I would encourage folks to, your listeners and anyone else out there, if you see a little person, don't run and hide. You don't have to take a photo of them. Maybe get to know them and take a photo with them 6 months later once you're friends. I think like having that mentality and that intent for impact is really important, because it gets you to think of, okay, how do I not just call this being that I see in front of me the right terminology, but it is humanizing this being in front of you and saying, oh yeah, they're human. They have a tough life, just like I have a tough life. They have successes and struggles, and people love them, and they want to have sex and feel pleasure and be loved and cry sometimes and feel hurt and all this stuff. So I think realizing that all of those things exist in all of the living humans that you encounter, I think that's sexy. Yeah. Go out and say hi to somebody.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just don't be avoiding people. Go be friendly. It's easy. And I think it's easy.
Absolutely.
It can be uncomfortable, but it's easy.
They might smell really good. You don't know.
It's true. Well, thank you so much for joining me. To all of my viewers, please check out I'm Kind of a Big Deal, because it's a really fun and interesting show.
Yeah.
And until next time, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Jamie. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. If you want to see more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that we end up in your feed. If you got something out of this personally that was helpful to you, also please leave a comment below. I love hearing the feedback about what's working and what's not. That's what makes this show better. And until next time, love you more, and we'll see you then.